Chapter 4. Doreen. At lunch next day, Doreen returned to the cafeteria and stood in front of Anya Sophia until she looked up from her math textbook. "Hey, do you speak American Sign Language?" Doreen asked. "What?" said Anya Sophia. Doreen spoke aloud and signed at the same time. "I spent a few hours last night brushing up on my sign language, just in case you speak it." Anya Sophia's expression was frozen halfway between "what the heck" and "I'm gonna just run away now." "One of my Canadian cousins speaks sign language," said Doreen, citing the words she knew. "And when I lived near them, I used to sign all the time with his family. But it's true what they say, use it or lose it. They also say, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, which I never understood because what's wrong with lemons to begin with?" Anya Sophia's eyes widened even wider. "You honestly spent hours practicing sign last night?" she asked. Doreen nodded. Anya Sophia frowned. She looked down at her textbook. "I've always hated that lemon saying, too. My mom cross-stitches platitudes on throw pillows. Makes me want to punch 'em." She looked up. She was still frowning, but her eyes were into it. "Sometimes I want to punch things, too," said Doreen, happy to have found something in common with Anya Sophia. Doreen smiled. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other. "Can I sit down?" she signed. Anya Sophia pushed a chair away from the table with her foot and gestured grandly to it. Doreen sat. "You're okay with sign?" Anya Sophia said aloud. "Well, you're not terrible, but I'm not fluent in it either. My family is hearing and they don't sign, and my friend who I used to sign with moved away, so whatever." "Moving away stinks," said Doreen, doing her best to sign the sentiment. Anya Sophia wrinkled her nose, not understanding, so they exchanged phone numbers and started texting instead. Doreen, "Moving away stinks." Anya Sophia, "The worst." Doreen, "I don't get it. You're bilingual and bionic." She looked up from her phone to gesture Anya Sophia's hearing aids. Doreen, "And yet you're still sitting by yourself. It makes no sense." Anya Sophia, "Actually, I'm trilingual. Hablo español." Doreen, "See? Also, you smell really good, not to be weird, but I've got a good nose." Anya Sophia, "My mom makes homemade soap." Anya Sophia rolled her eyes as if she thought this was another obnoxious maternal habit. Doreen leaned back with exasperated joy. Doreen, "Are you kidding? I've never met anyone who made homemade soap. You just get more interesting. Clearly, we're best friends now, and that's a relief, because I was wasting so much time looking for you." Anya Sophia frowned at her phone. I don't do best friends." "No?" Doreen frowned. "But we're definitely friends, right?" "Let's not be hasty." "Okay." Doreen was certain they'd officially be friends by the end of lunch. End of day tops. She took a big bite of her almond butter sandwich. With her mouth full, she tried to speak, but Anya Sophia shook her head. Doreen texted, "What else is interesting in town?" Anya Sophia, "Nothing. Shady Oaks is a disaster." Doreen, "Impossible. There's that big park." Anya Sophia, "Yeah, but you try to hang out there, you risk wrath of LARPers or soccer moms or crazy dogs." Doreen texted, question mark, question mark, question mark. Anya Sophia, "A pack of crazy feral dogs wander around growling and biting." Doreen, "What do they eat?" Anya Sophia, "Garbage, I guess, 'cause it's everywhere. FYI, if someone paints graffiti on your house, just leave it. If you paint over it, they'll do more the next night." Doreen, "Who will?" "I've heard it's mostly a group of guys from the high school," Anya Sophia said aloud. "They call themselves the Skunk Club. I know that sounds made up, but I kid you not. Shady Oaks is an unincorporated township, which, as far as I can tell, means that we don't have police of our own. Anytime there's a problem, we have to wait for county police to come. So I guess that makes criminals bolder or whatever. It wasn't always this bad. I've been keeping track, and it's definitely gotten worse." Anya Sophia took out a notebook and paged through hundreds of notes and observations. "About 2 years ago, there was a spike in thefts of electronics, bicycles, that sort of thing. I'm beginning to suspect that the increased overall crime is in reaction to the initial spike in thefts. If I could only figure out who the original source is." Doreen texted, "Wow, you've seriously gone to town on this." Anya Sophia, "I kind of like mysteries. Do you think that's stupid?" Doreen, "No, I think that's awesome." Doreen didn't care much for mystery. She preferred nuts. but if Anna Sophia liked mysteries, she was interested for her newly declared BFF's sake. Doreen texted, "But there was a bizarro squirrel trap in the park that was straight off the Death Star with a squishing wall and everything." "I haven't heard anything like that," said Anna Sophia, jotted that new info down in the notebook. There was a marking on it. Looked like 2 M's. "Interesting," Anna Sophia said, adding that note. "FYI, don't even bother riding a bike to school. Or it'll get stolen," Doreen signed and said. "Yeah, and say goodbye to the stereo in your parents' car." Doreen signed something to show disgust at the situation. Anna Sophia pressed her lips together as if surprised by an unfamiliar desire to smile. "That's a swear word." "Are you serious?" "But Ben says it all the time. Maybe it's not a swear word in Canada." "Or maybe Ben is just naughty," she said with a short laugh. A boy took a seat across the table from them. He had very light skin and light brown hair. In Los Angeles, he'd probably be tanned and blonde, but here he looked pale and sallow, like maybe he spent most of his time in basements. "Who's your friend?" Doreen asked. "That's Mike," said Anya Sophia. Doreen tried not to be disappointed by his name, but she'd made her first friend named Mike when she'd been like 3 years old and was hoping for a more unique name. If only Mike were short for Michaelmas or microphone or macaroni or something. Mike said, "Friend is a loaded term. Acquaintance. I sit here because it's usually free from self-important babbling." With all the background noise, Doreen wasn't sure Anya Sophia caught everything he had said, but she shook her head and rolled her eyes, apparently familiar enough with Mike to catch the gist. Excuse me. "You seem a little down," said Doreen. "You seem to have a balloon for a head," said Mike. Was that another crack at her full cheeks? "Fuzz Muppets and Beanie Babies," Doreen cursed again under her breath. "When you're blindly and stupidly floating around," said Mike, "someone like me, with my 2 feet firmly on the ground, might seem down. The correct term is well-grounded. Try it sometime." "Sheesh, is everybody in Shady Oaks pessimistic?" she asked Anya Sophia. "Again, well-grounded," said Mike. "But don't let me in with the riffraff. This whole neighborhood is a nightmare of unpredictability and inconvenience. No one follows rules. No one does what they're told." He shuddered. "I hate it." "Alert the news," said Anya Sophia. "Mike Rominger hates everything." "Aw, don't be so glum, Mike-a-roni." "Can I call you Mike-a-roni?" said Doreen. He said, "No way in. Life is just a great big fat nut hanging on a tree," Doreen went on. "And all you have to do is leap up and grab it and eat it up. Num, 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 num." Mike looked hard at Doreen and then pointedly picked up his tablet and held it in front of his face, blocking her out of his view. Anya Sophia texted, "Don't pay attention to him." Doreen, "Is he mad?" Anya Sophia, "Grumpy like always. Anyway, he's nobody. The only people you need to worry about at Union are the somebodies." She gestured toward a group of guys and girls over by the frozen yogurt machine. Lucy Tang was among them, and the blonde who'd commented on Doreen's badonk. They sat around on top of 3 tables that they'd pushed together, eating frozen yogurt and talking and laughing, as if they were posing for a Cool Kids magazine photo shoot. Anya Sophia texted, "Heidi's mom donated the Froyo machine, so she and her friends think they own it. Basically, unless they acknowledge you, you're nobody." Doreen replied, "But that doesn't make sense." Anya Sophia, "That's just the way it is." Doreen adjusted in her seat. Her tail ached, her back itched even more, her optimistic heart was screaming, "Nothing is just the way it is. You don't have to accept bad stuff, Doreen. Change it." Doreen texted, "In LA, we had bunches of heroes like She-Hulk and Hellcat. They're always fighting crime and making things better. Do the Avengers ever come around here?" Anya Sophia texted, "LA and New York City are big. No one cares about tiny Shady Oaks. Why would they?" Doreen stuffed another sandwich into her mouth. She wasn't sure why anyone would care about Shady Oaks either, except that she lived there, and so did her mom and dad, and Anya Sophia, and Tippy Toe. Wasn't that enough?